And we're now joined by Kelly Sheffield of UW Volleyball, the head coach. And one of my favorite things about going to the volleyball games that I bring my girls is that you see the team dancing throughout, and they're always having high energy, and they're always dancing and moving along. I feel like this is a song, Matt, that like could keep, and Coach, you can hop in on it, kind of keep the energy level. Has there ever been any ABBA played during your games to kind of keep the team engaged and everything?
Not enough on the games, but plenty on my playlist.
Okay, perfect. Now, do you have a playlist that plays during practices, or do you torture the team with some of your own personal playlist, or do they got to pick the music?
Well, they may say, no, they do not get to play the music. It's my music. It's they may say they're tortured, but it's one of those things that I don't care if they're being tortured at all. You know, we play our music for one of the reasons is that, in my thinking, if they're playing their music, then it's the same music that they're hearing at house parties or back at their places or, you know, the bars or wherever. Mm-hmm. But when years later, when they're hearing the songs that have been in the gym, it'll take them back to the gym. And so there's a lot of complaining while they're there, and there's a lot of gratitude years later when story time is happening.
And that's crazy because in the last 30 seconds, I went from like, oh, look at Kelly rolling with an iron fist over the Wisconsin volleyball program.
Yeah.
And now it's more like, I'm doing this for these kids.
Yeah.
They're going to grow up and really appreciate some of these songs. Yeah. It's going to trigger memories. I'm like, wow. You just blew my mind right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a deeper thought, you know, in our own minds, right?
Yeah.
So I want to stay with the music thing, and I'm going to ask you. I'm going to give, since Kelly's new, I'm going to give him time. I'm going to put you on the spot. What song do you most associate with Team Schuster winning the gold medal? Like, what song? Because that's like we've talked about it before. When we play bump back music here, part of the idea is to pick songs that people know because then they're brought in because they have their own memories. So give me one song, Matt.
No. So this this is silly. It's painfully obvious. It's the national anthem.
Okay.
Like that's the moment you're always waiting for as an Olympian is like if you get to stand on the podium and hear your anthem, it means you did it. And it sounds cheesy, but like that's what every time I hear it, even after the fact, like I'll just be at a ball game and it makes me think about curling. So, yeah, 100%, you're right on that. Though music definitely is a strong trigger of like memories and stuff like that. So I think that's a really good play that you're doing that with your softball or volleyball team.
And then what about 20? You're just all in on the softball.
I'm looking at the softball behind him and it's breaking me up right now.
Do you want to share the news that you have?
No, we can save that. It's good for a later time.
Okay, Coach, what about the national championship team with UW? One song pops in your head?
The song that they played in the locker room a lot, I think it was a Beyonce song. Girls Rule the World or something along those lines. I think that became that. I know my first year here, 2013, we are in Illinois, and the State Farm Center, the big place, and a new song had just come out, and so we just got done practicing. We're about ready to go into the Sweet 16 match, and one of the players said, "There's this song that's new. I know it's not on your playlist, but you know, can we play and everybody will get hyped?" And that song was Timber. Remember that?
Yeah. Yelling Timber.
And that became on all the highlights, and then it became overplayed and everything.
Yeah.
But you know, every time I hear that song, it takes me back to there where we won the Sweet 16, won the Elite Eight, and made it to the Final Four. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. So what I want you to take me back now is take me back a couple weeks when you were at Game 7 of the Knicks-Pacers game because I just heard this story out in the bullpen, and I yelled at the people out there. I was like, you guys, this is content for the show, and you're wasting it right now. So stop talking about it. Bring it in. Give us this experience of Game 7 in Madison Square Garden, Knicks-Pacers.
I mean, as a child, the Pacers were my team, right? Yeah. And, you know, and I'm clearly a Bucks fan now, and my assistant coach's wife is one of the trainers for the Bucks, and so, you know, very, very close with those guys. So those would probably be the two teams that, you know, I follow the most. But I'm doing a coaching clinic upstate New York, and I've got a flight about 2 hours in front of me. And as I'm driving to the airport, I'm like, man, Game 7. it's right down the road here. So I called a buddy of mine and who was at Game 6 in Indy, and I said, all right, get your butt down here. Get over here. Let's go to the game tomorrow. And he hit me up for it. We got some great seats, and we're down there, and before we get there a full hour, and the hype going into that place was it was unbelievable, just outside. We walk in, and I get my $38 gin and tonic and a box of popcorn, and I realize that's unsustainable throughout the game. And so I go and sit down, have a couple drinks of that, and realize, all right, I'm switching over to a Diet Coke. And went back out there, grabbed one, go and sit down. And as we're sitting down, the guy next to me, the New Yorker, yells at me and says, I think you filmed us enough. And I said, I'm just filming the building. He said, keep the camera off of me. No problem. We're all good.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. And
it's tough New Yorkers.
Tough, hey. And we're in the garden. How do you,
Yeah. Yeah.
And shortly after that, a guy's walking past me to go to his chair, and I stand up to let him go, and I grabbed my gin and tonic and my popcorn and the towel that they gave me when I walked in. I didn't have enough hands for the Diet Coke that was on the floor.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, watch out for the Diet Coke, and it's down there. And he looks at me, sees me wearing a Pacer shirt, looks down at the Diet Coke, and kicked it over. It just kept walking, But in that moment, the reaction that I had in that moment was, this is awesome. It's Game 7.
Yeah.
You're in the Garden.
Yeah.
It would have been disappointing. It would have been a letdown had he said, excuse me.
Yeah, no.
No. That's the emotions that should be coming out of Game 7, right?
Yeah, no, Kelly's like a mini radio host here. We're just in it for the story. We want something bad to happen.
Exactly.
That's boring if you go to the game and I sat there and I had good seats and I ate my popcorn and gin and tonic and that was my day. Okay, I was worried. God knows where Mac wants the story to go, but that's a great story.
I'll be honest. As I'm telling the story, he should have kicked my butt. Who goes to the Garden drinks a gin and tonic? I mean, I gotta change. It was a Jack and Coke from here on out. It was Jack. It was a beer. I was not drinking a gin and tonic. It was.
That's a better way to spin it. We are joined by Kelly Sheffield, UW Volleyball. Hey, Coach, we're thrilled that we now get to have your games on ESPN Madison, the play-by-play team still to stay intact and all of that, but it's one of the I've been with the station for 17 years. It's one of the most proud moments I've ever experienced is that we were able to make the announcement that we're able to bring on this championship team, this team that's got countless Final Fours and Sweet 16 appearances and Big Ten titles, and you've been there for 10 years. It means a lot that we get to carry your games, so welcome.
I'm so excited. Our program is really excited to be able to be connected with this brand and you guys and be able to reach a greater, bigger audience. I think it's an exciting partnership.
Yeah,
it's gonna be big, and I mean I'm pumped for all the games that we'll get to hear because I do feel like unless you know where to go, it's hard to find Badger volleyball.
Well, now you know.
ESPN Madison. The very least, you can pop it on and listen to it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that's really great that we're going to be able to offer them that exposure. And then we get to, we've had Devin Robinson in here and chatting, and now you. So hopefully we can keep bringing in some volleyball experts to kind of help me and Jim in our feeble non-volleyball minds. The last time Devin was in here, I was bringing up my bar league volleyball games. Sometimes Coach, I feel like you. I know I'm not, but I definitely feel like it.
I'm sure the respect level from her to you really climbed up from
those stories. I felt like I earned it back. I might have dipped a little bit of a roller coaster.
I told every listener that anytime you see Matt Hamilton anywhere, tell him your curling stories about curling on the pond or whatever, because it's all relatable.
Yeah. It is relatable. Sports are the great connector of people.
But Dev Robinson's a great example. So we've had an opportunity. She's intern here. Now she works part-time. You've had a lot of great, I know student athlete with NIL is a little different now, but you've had so many great student athletes who are fantastic off the court, fantastic on the court. And it's a credit to who you're recruiting and how you're coaching. But I'll give you an opportunity just to kind of talk about the type of athletes you've had come through in your 10 years here and what you try to find and how you find these winning players.
Yeah, I'm driving around the building here. Before I walked in, I'm talking with Sydney Hilly on the phone, who's a 5-time All-American for us, and was just named MVP of year number 1 of Professional Volleyball Federation. She was the MVP of the entire tournament, and obviously she led us to the national championship. This past weekend, I was out in L.A., out in Long Beach with my daughter who had a tournament, and I had lunch with Dana Retke, who was a National Player of the Year, our first National Player of the Year, 5-time first-team All-American, who's trying to make the Olympic roster right now, 6'8" middle blocker, and Lauren Carlini had dinner with her on Sunday night before we came back here, and who is also trying to make that Olympic roster. She was a 4-time All-American for us. So those would be some all-timers, but. Quite frankly, this team that we've got right now going into this year, this might be my most talented team. I mean, it's certainly an experienced team. We haven't been overly experienced the last 2 years as we kind of had a lot of turnover after our championship season in 21. But we've got a lot of people that have played a lot of matches and a lot of talent coming into this season.
So, Kelly, I'm curious how NIL has affected volleyball. Have you found that there's way new courses that you need to navigate now, or is it a little bit more business as usual than maybe like football?
I would say it's a little bit. First of all, nobody is where men's basketball is right now. Not even football. I mean, that's right. It's because of the smaller roster size. That is for so much. It is pay to play, right? And for good, bad, or ugly, and there's certainly an element of that with football that is happening. We're clearly in a different place than them. NIL is definitely with every player in our team. I mean, but I want to say it's at a pay to play type of situation. It is enhancing their brand. It's giving opportunities to them and the businesses that they're working in. Every single player on our team is involved in it, and they are in a way better situation than I remember ever being in as a 19-year-old.
Yeah, no doubt.
and part of that and I want to talk about how the viewership for volleyball has risen over the years. ESPN is up 58% regular season games year over year, setting records with millions of people watching these volleyball games. And that has to help with people. I think in Madison we've kind of embraced the team, but just overall that national recognition trickles down to the players, whether it's the NIL, but just overall social media followings, all of that part of it. And how do you manage that? Because it's got to be a lot of fun to have so much more people watching the matches, but also being able to showcase the players.
Well, we're setting records constantly. I think the first 5 road matches that we were in last year set attendance records. We filled up the Kohl Center 2 years ago. Last year we filled up the Fiserv. This year we'll have 2 matches in Fiserv that'll be on Fox TV. That should be and ESPN radio here in Madison. Yeah. It's and both those should sell out, and so our first 3 matches should be played in front of 18,000 fans. So right off the bat, Louisville will open the season with them down there. That'll be on ESPN. So we're selling out. We're getting attendance numbers while we're watching. But it still feels like there's ankle weights on the sport. I don't think we are being elevated in the same way that I would say women's basketball is. Half of the first weekend, the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament, not a single game is on TV, which is in my mind ludicrous. And so there's a lot of growth happening, but there's a lot of room for more growth to yet happen, which is really exciting.
So do you think, everything's always slow, especially on the big media side of things. Obviously last year, 1.1 million viewers for your match against Texas, which set a bunch of records for ESPN. So obviously they're starting to see the results of it. But then you see the WNBA, you see college basketball, the women's side of things. So, and obviously Caitlin Clark and some of the stars were part of it. But I guess I'm hopeful that the success they saw with basketball, they can start to tie in and be like, look, if it's great sports and it's great athletes doing great things, people are going to watch it. And I think the success year over year for volleyball, but then also the success of women's basketball, I think they can carry over to volleyball, and that might help kind of raise, the rising tide lifts all boats.
We've got our own Caitlin Clark here and Sarah Franklin.
Yes.
But that spotlight is not nearly as bright on Sarah for whatever reason that it is, and that's not to take anything away from Caitlin. She's been amazing, right? And Angel Reese and quite a few other people. But that spotlight needs to get on some amazing athletes in our sport. You mentioned Texas. They've got Madison Skinner that was just been with the national team a couple weeks ago. That was Final Four Player of the Year. Anna Schmreck, who has been in 2 Final Fours during her time here. One, she was a MVP of the Final Four as a freshman, and this past year she was on there, 6'9", middle blocker, right side. That has the ability of having that same shine on her. And Devin, you mentioned her, is certainly another one of those players.
So for me, one of the big things that I feel like that holds curling back is because the games. You can, if you see the writing on the wall, the game can end early. A team can forfeit if it's just a blowout. And volleyball, obviously, you can win in consecutive games and out the door. What do you think is actually holding volleyball back the most when you look at it as a marketing standpoint for television? Is it the fact that you can route a team and be done early and there's time to fill, or do you think? It's still growing, and once it has that exposure, it'll get there? Or do you think that there's something else behind it?
I think it's quite a few things that I think are moving in the right direction. I think we, this past year we started our first pro season for PVF. League One volleyball is also starting professional league that will be starting in November, and Madison will be one of the towns. So we'll have professional volleyball here in Madison, which is a really big deal, and cool. Some Olympians will be on the roster here. So that will have a huge impact. We need corporate America to get behind the sport, which there's been a huge movement on that. Right. We've got to get more matches on during the NCAA tournament. We can't go black. We can't go dark. The first weekend, we've got to be able to do that. I mean,
that's arguably the best weekend in the college men's basketball side and women's basketball.
No
that's
doubt.
Moving week, right? So that's why wouldn't it be the same for volleyball?
It's got to have that. We don't. You need to have a. What do you call that? A bracket challenge.
Yeah.
How in the world do we not?
Right. Yeah.
That's a big thing. If you don't have a bracket challenge, you're only following your team. You have a bracket challenge, you're following everything because you're competitive, because you want to win that bracket.
Yeah, absolutely.
Matt loves brackets.
I love brackets.
You love brackets.
We might do a bracket before you leave here today.
Can we get ESPN to do a bracket challenge
we
for
should,
us?
at the bare minimum, do an ESPN Madison. We can kind of create a bracket. I mean, why not? ESPN should be able to do it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Call Karma's in, lean on them a little bit. I'm actually surprised. I would not be shocked because, look, simple fact of it is ESPN and everything, they follow the eyeballs and they follow the money. So as it's raising year over year, setting records, ESPN's going to be like, well, this seems to make sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt, I'm curling. It seems to make sense of more and more people are consuming it, so let's give more and more people what they want.
I'll tell you this. There is no fan base in our sport that is as crazy as and obsessed as Madison, as Wisconsin people.
Nice.
Nebraska does a great job as well, but the level of the enthusiasm, what it sounds like in our building is different than anywhere else. But it doesn't matter who we're playing. Our fans, there's fans out there 4 hours before we even start waiting in line. And December, whatever, we got to the regionals. First fans were there over 11 hours before match time, waiting in line. It's in December. There's a new club that started here 3 years ago, Madtown Volleyball Club, and who my wife is a coach for those guys. They're in year 3. They've got 51 teams in a 10-court brand new facility. So you've got hundreds of young kids that are getting into the sport, and then you add the pro team that is starting in here. There's an explosion that's happening here.
The field house has quickly become one of the hardest tickets to get, and when you go, and I bring my daughters, and it's not just because they can see women playing the sport; it's because of the sport. the atmosphere, the pace of it too. I mean, there's so many things that are competitive advantage going to the matches or seeing them on TV. It's one of those things where I can take my oldest and also know that this isn't going to be. We're not 6 hours into this and now she's bored. It is constantly going, constant like movement, constant play going on, and then obviously the team is great, which even piles on to it. So I do think that growth is going to continue to come. And Matt, you're doing your best by your sand volleyball team too. You're You're trying to
looking for growth. Trying to get some more viewers. Trying to get corporate America to sponsor my team too. So it's been tricky.
Well, Kelly didn't bring up your volleyball. I didn't want you to be upset that he didn't bring up the Hamilton
it's understandable.
rec volleyball team. You were heartbroken on Monday that you didn't compete because there was rain and you're a little sad boy.
Yeah. It was raining on Wednesday and I missed, or Tuesday or something. We missed a week.
Yeah, so he's passionate about his volleyball league.
Hey,
so.
I made a commitment.
Yes, absolutely. You can make the show about 70% of the time.
Is it a beer league?
There's a beer garden very near, but it's not like at a bar. It's just the Wisconsin one. It's at Olbrich Park, and there's the Olbrich beer garden right there.
All right, so let me ask you this: if the field house gets beer, how does that change the environment in there? Is that for better or worse in your point of view?
Better.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, we're presented by Coors Light, and we love the Coors Light folks. And we do tailgates. I think Wisconsin
everything's
fans know
better
how-
with a beer.
Yeah.
Women's volleyball is great. You throw a Coors Light on top of it, and it's just better.
And I think
it's
Wisconsin
greater
fans,
than the two parts that are going in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You watch Brewer games, Packer games. Like Wisconsin fans know how to have a good time and enjoy beer.
I'll tell you what, we may be there sooner than not in more of the facilities there. So that'll be interesting. That you talk about the energy of. You go to any of these sporting events at UW, and chances are it's one of the biggest fan bases in that sport, right? But it'll be interesting to see how does it sound different when you add that element to it.
All right, so I think
it's probably going to be timing won't always be the best. That's what I've noticed, especially with fans, because you throw beer in there, you're going to get more first-time fans, right?
Yeah.
And when we had a curling national championship in Jacksonville, Florida, the other team would miss, and some fans that were cheering for us would go crazy. And it's normally you're like, kind of give it a second, let their missed shots sink in, and then you go. So you might see a little bit of that. You might see the other team screw up, and then the Badger fans go nuts.
Turn into the Phoenix Open.
Yeah, exactly. Right? You probably won't get any beer cans thrown, but I was.
Yeah,
I was
you were
at
at that.
zoo.
Yeah.
This year, it was a gong show.
A friend of show and local TV host is now. Well, just because we have different partners of the show, so we'll leave names out of it. But you can maybe describe what type of bourbon and whiskey. We hear you're a big whiskey guy. Is what I got a text message in.
I'll enjoy whiskey or as much as the next one.
So is it Kentucky? Is it like what do you try to locals? Like again, try to stay away from the brands. But what type? I mean, what is it? The age? Like Matt, you're probably better at asking a generic question than I am.
I can get into the whiskey a little bit more. All right. So first off, are you more of like someone who wants to like your traditionalist Kentucky bourbon, or are you open to the new United States can make bourbon? Like any state can make a bourbon, technically.
I know we do a pretty good job here in Wisconsin.
Yep. We certainly do.
Yes.
Right.
And then I'm the real big question is: are you more into like that like standard 45%, or are you more of the barrel proof kind of guy who wants that whiskey that'll put a little hair on your chest?
Yeah, it's.
'Cause I'm a barrel proofer personally. I'm a barrel proof guy.
Yeah, you sound more sophisticated in your knowledge than I do.
He's very we go out to distilleries
real
and he can have legit conversations with the distiller.
Yeah,
I get real nerdy about it, but the basics are like okay. I know some people that are like purists and like Kentucky only.
Yeah,
right? So
no, that is I'm not a bourbon snob at all.
Right.
I wouldn't say that I'm a wine snob at all. I also want to say I'm a massive drinker. That every night I'm going and having something.
Yeah,
right? I want to say that.
That wasn't.
So
it was more
I usually do it every
that,
morning.
Yeah,
right?
there you go.
So,
Yeah, get the day started.
exactly.
What do you like with your coffee? Yeah.
Well, Well, that's good. That's awesome.
So, Coach, also, you're here. You want a little bit about the Read On Wisconsin program. My kids will probably definitely be taking a part of this at age 7 and age 11. They love the public libraries, the Read poster, which I've seen these over the years. Devin Robinson will be featured on it. Culver's and Quick Chip and Shields gift cards will be part of the program as well. You can visit participating libraries June 3rd. It'll run while supplies last or until June 14th, and there'll be trying to think here. Hunter Wohler will be at a public library in Muskego on June 3rd to kick off the campaign. So, Coach, just another commitment to the community from UW Athletics, but also the volleyball program.
Well, yeah, I think we're all excited about it. It's a partnership with James and Sue Patterson Foundation, right? And, trying to help promote literacy and, summer reading in the state of Wisconsin. And I think, one of the I want to say it's a challenge. It's an opportunity, right, is that as we're making the switch over to NIL, is it can't just be all about our own athletes and our own teams. We've got to do whatever we can to still be really good in the community of it, where it's not transactional. It's still based on relationships and based on being able to grow as humans and be able to interact and help the people with the community that we lay in. And this is one of the incredible opportunities that I know our players are excited about. That's one of the favorite things is when they go into a classroom and read to young kids. And certainly I've got a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old, and both them have been around some of those reading opportunities that we're talking about here.
Yeah, and then the athletes remember it from when they were kids, and then someone came and read to them. And so it kind of continues because it is one of those moments.